What scientific fact scares the absolute hit out of you? The fact that we can just get a blood clot and die and not realize anything was up. The human body has so many ways of just suddenly dying, and it's terrifying. The fact that your body can have advancing cancer and you wouldn't know it sometimes. Father-in-law's brother was walking through his kitchen and he fainted and hit his head on the counter. He was rushed to the hospital and they ran tests and he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Andy's body was already in the endgame. He was dead within 2 months of diagnosis. That hit terrifies me, and it can happen to anyone. Our white blood cells are fighting cancer cells on the daily. Why do I click on this hit every time? Rabies. You can have it and never know until it decides it's time. And then you'll die terribly. Scientific literature's conclusion on Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases, in general, is that the diseases start decades before the first obvious symptoms and that we need to treat them at this stage. When you exhibit obvious symptoms, it's too late, your brain is already mush. If you get diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 65, you had the disease since your early 40s at least. And you experienced very mild symptoms but didn't notice them. And your brain fought like hell to compensate for the deficit. When you get diagnosed, your brain is already very severely damaged and will never recover from the deficit. Your brain can just stoke out and die at any time. Space just in general. Or that bit about the Higgs field not being in true equilibrium and that returning to it would break everything as we know it. That one day I will die. I don't know why, but sometimes at night, as I'm falling asleep, I suddenly think of this and it freaks me out. Like start feeling super anxiety. Prion diseases exist. I don't remember what it was called, but there was an event in the 1800s caused by solar activity where telegraphs operated on their own without power and I think caused minor damage. Should such a solar event happen again, it would destroy all O4 internet network capabilities and other electrical gear. Anyone know what I'm referring to? Edit. Carrington event? Thanks for the links. Less scary, more mind-numbingly depressing is the dark era of the universe. When all the star fuel is gone, and it will be, and all the white dwarfs have gone cold and dark, and they will, and all the black holes have evaporated away into elementary particles, and they will, the universe will be a cold, dark place. Forever. The fact that we could get hit by a coronal mass ejection at any moment. UCK this whole thread. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It's genetic. You won't know that you have it. When you know that you have it, there is zero recourse. It will eat holes in your brain and you'll die. That, and fatal familial insomnia, also genetic. One of your parents woke up one day and couldn't fall back asleep until they died, having suffered rapidly progressing neural degeneration. And it ends to set in around midlife, so you spend every day waking up knowing it might be the last time. You find it hard to build relationships and have a family because you know it's not a matter of if, only when. But you know you're not going to see your golden years. The fact that scientists are telling all of us, screaming really, to make changes or hit going to get worse and we just don't. Maybe not too scientific per se, but the fact that I could get hit by a car walking home from work and wake up in the hospital. Go on with my life, meet the love of my life and get married. Have kids, and watch them grow into their teens and we all have a good life. Then one day I wake up in the hospital and find out I was in a coma and none of that was real. When I look in the mirror and realize that the cells that make up my body are hundreds of times closer in scale to the planet we live on than the planet we live on is to the galaxy it is in. Not even the known universe, just the Milky Way, which is one of over 100 billion. Do the minimum. The metaphysical aspect of consciousness. Where is consciousness? What is it? When does it really end? Where does it go when we die? When we sleep? How does it occupy our entire being without being physically present? We are quite literally the universe experiencing itself, in a fragile little bubble on a mote of dust in a sunbeam. And yet, what exactly are we? That's the sort of question that keeps me up at night. I don't fear death, I don't fear world annihilation, but I am deeply unsettled by the mere experience of being aware. When the atom bomb was being created, the leading scientists associated with the project at the Timahod to calculate the flammability of the Earth's atmosphere in order to ensure that detonating the bomb would not cause the atmosphere to combust. At the time when the first atom bomb was detonated, these scientists still had not answered this question, meaning that we legitimately just crossed our fingers and hoped we wouldn't set the planet on fire. Humans are stupid. That you could just have a brain aneurysm and die at any given time with no warning. That viruses cannot classify as a living organism and yet behave as if they are fully aware of their surroundings and evolved to suit it. They behave like they have a brain but are merely nucleic acids. Fascinated me since my first virology class. Dark forest theory. And there's a big empty spot in our universe. I suspect world eaters. Every time you use an antibiotic, even for something mild like strep throat or bronchitis or traveler's diarrhea, you technically could get C. difficile infection from your wiped out gut flora. And that could end up a lingering, resistant infection that leads to colectomy or fecal transplant. Antibiotics are scary. And there's a reason doctors only want to prescribe them if absolutely needed. Edit. I'm sorry I wasn't able to respond to everyone. This comment got a lot bigger than expected. What movie had you saying, "What the UCK," the most while watching? The most audible, "What the UCK," I have ever heard from an entire movie theater audience was actually from Pixar. It was their short film Bao, I think before Incredibles 2. A woman makes a little baby out of dumpling ingredients. There is a cute montage of them together, and then she eats it without warning. It was a midnight opening, so the audience was all adults, and yeah, nobody saw that coming. Swiss Army Man. Tusk. Sorry to bother you. Human Centipede. Mother. Sausage Party. Clockwork Orange. Mulholland Drive. Really all David Lynch stuff, though should probably be in this thread. Velocipaster, an instant classic. Annihilation. The Lobster. The Mist. I literally yelled WTF and then continued to mutter WTF, that's so ucked up WTF for a good while. I was so angry. Thankfully I was at home when I saw it. I'm still angry about it, though I give it the credit it deserves. The Barbarian and Requiem for a Dream. Recently watched Paprika and I have to go with that. Edit. Several people have pointed out the trailer is terrible. I'll admit I only watched a few seconds on mute before linking it just to check it was the correct movie. It is indeed a terrible trailer which doesn't do justice to the film. Don't let it put you off. What is a subtle sign that someone is a good person? Holding on to trash until they find a trash can. When someone includes everyone in a conversation. Treats people with no power with dignity and respect. They say nice things about others behind their backs. Casually considerate. They open doors for people without thinking. They ask if anyone wants anything if they're grabbing snacks, lunch, getting off the couch. They don't play a game of chicken with people trying to merge into traffic and instead just let people over. If someone drops something, they pick it up and give it back. They notice if someone is upset and ask if everything is okay, etc., etc. Has to be consistent behavior and occurs for anyone, not just, say, attractive people. Empathy for strangers in situations different from their own. They don't speak badly about people who aren't there. They use tact and restraint that I find inviolable. They talk to their children in a polite, loving way, even when they're tired and frustrated. If you catch them secretly doing something generous, that's usually something only a person with honorable motives will do. They respond with curiosity rather than anger. When people do genuinely nice things without expecting a reward or recognition for it. They put the grocery cart back after putting their groceries in their car. Genuinely happy when good things happen to other people, even when they don't get why it's a good thing or if it was something they also wanted. They call you when they're going to be late instead of leaving you twisting in the wind. Treating service staff as human beings is the #1 indicator for me, which is so depressing when you think about it. The most subtle sign is catching them during a moment when they think no one is watching. That's why the cart return thing is definitely telling of you as a person. Which fictional characters should have to register as ex-offenders? Quagmire. Dennis, It's Always Sunny. Zap Brannigan. Master Roshi of DBZ. Ramsay Bolton and he'd be overqualified. Barney Stinson. He sold a woman. Edward Cullen, maybe? Basically anyone in Game of Thrones. Zeus. How is Zeus not #1 on this list? Many Harry Potter characters for sure. Love Potion Deus Ex Machina really. Roger Smith from American Dad, like 100 times. Hisoka, Hunter x Hunter. Pepe Le Pew. Bet there won't be many here who knows who this character is. He was the Jimmy Savile of the Skunk World. Ezra Fitz. That guy in Lolita? Kevin Spacey's character from American Beauty. The Todd Scrubs. Jafar. Jasmine is probably 16? Bond, James Bond. Who else but Quagmire? What's something that offends you and you keep having to deal with it? When other people are allowed to be mean, rude, ridiculous, unhinged, etc. But now I've got Totake the high road, in other words, my mill. IDK if this considers offending, but people in groups taking the whole AMN sidewalk, people blocking the *AMN elevator, like bro let me get out first. I used to be people pleaser and when I learned how to say no and to set boundaries people didn't take it well. I've been called selfish and self-centered. People asking you for help then expecting you to do whatever they needed help with in its entirety while they go UCK off and do whatever. Not respecting other people's time. Being constantly late is not a cute personality trait, it's rude. People expecting you to accept and be okay with all their hit but would never ever accept 1% of that from you. I really can't stand that kind of behavior. ID's the most narcissistic obnoxious ucking behavior you can imagine. Litter. No matter how much I tidy it up, there's always fecking more. People are bloomin' disgusting. My disrespectful boss screaming lewdy murder at mean others when he doesn't hear what he likes. When I get blamed for stupid hit that is clearly not my fault, the man has the emotional discipline of a *ucking toddler. I used to love coming to work. Now I loathe the thought of it. People ucking arguing with me about something I'm trying to help them with. Having to be online for single-player games. People interrupting my conversations, speaking over the top of me.